Esteemed audience, welcome to the show where we have pitched camp to search for the greatest debaters in Meru region. This is the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Esperanza Kapanga.
And I am Chris Buru. The bone of contention between our intellectual teams today is Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent.
Proposing this motion, we have the ladies from St. Mary's Igoji High School.
And opposing this motion, making their debut on the Great Debaters Contest, we have Chogoria Boys High School.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
The world is just like glass. Once you apply too much force on it, it breaks. And this is where we are headed as Africa, to breakage. And it is from this basis that I strongly propose that Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat we have to the continent. In Africa, youth bulge basically means the increase in the number of youth in the continent. And in Africa, it is at a rate of 1.6% annually, according to Population Africa International. The same research done by the same group shows that the ratio of the number of youth to the total number of people in the country in the world stands at 15.8%. In Africa, it stands at 19.2%. A very big deviation, right? So what happens to the surplus? Factually speaking, not every one of us will get employment. It is just like in a class, not everyone will get straight A's. So in Africa, not every youth is going to get employment, and still the number of surplus is increasing. What happens then? These people who are idle are more viable to be recruited to militia. You're talking about Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, you name them, you've suffered from them. Also, the ladies, they are not getting employment, they go to prostitution. Yet, we want to raise the youth who are not only economically upright, but also with ethics. Are we going to achieve this? Moreover, standard development goals. Goal number 3, good health and well-being. A study done by UNICEF in 2016 proves that there are 610,000 new HIV infections only by the youth. The same study proves that it is mostly the youth who spread the disease. Mathematically speaking, if one variable increases, so does the other. So if the number of youth is going to increase, then the number of infections is going to increase. We are never going to attain that goal. That it will come to a time when we'll have 0 new infections in the continent. It will not be possible if the number of youths continue to multiply. Politically speaking, more people means more demarcations, means more leaders. More leaders will mean that more people have to be paid by the taxpayers. Already at home in Kenya, we are grappling with issues on how to budget for our money. Give us new leaders. We're already speaking of a 4-tier system of government that we don't want to support because 90% of us feel that we are going to have a lot of weight to the pockets of the taxpayers for them to pay to the leaders. Now, if we have more people, we'll have more leaders to cater for these people. We'll have to settle them in different areas, and our country. Every area should have a leader. That's how the system goes. So we'll have more people to pay. Well, already right now, we are having issues to sort with our money. We don't even know how to budget our money. Countries are over-borrowing. In Kenya, it is a problem that has been there. Every year, there has to be a scandal. NYS scam, NYS 2. It really doesn't have to be that way. I have a cow, and it has 1 tick. And I'm not worried, because 1 tick is a problem I can handle. But 1,000 ticks, I can't. That's why I strongly propose that the rate at which youth bulge is growing is really a problem. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
My name is Bernard Nyaga from the Chogoria School. And yes, youths are not a threat. What is happening is that an illusion is being created. For the first time, I am taking to this podium to persevere and object the illusion that my friends are creating of the youth. One, the African Youth Charter defines the youths as people in between the age of 15 and 35 years. Mo Ibrahim Foundation, in accordance with the youth bulge, estimates that by 2050, the population that is currently standing at 200 million youths in Africa will have doubled to about 2.4 billion. So as the governments of Africa they are trying to place all bets in Africa, in African youths. The reason being, youths are talented. We have the confidence to stand here and say youths are not a threat because we have the talent of debating. We don't want to go very far. Our presenters here are pursuing other careers out there. And one thing they are doing, they are hosting this particular event very well. Miss Kapanga, Mr. Chris, they are doing it excellently. Yes, they are venturing in other careers. Their talent is incredible. They are making a difference in our society. Secondly, youths are politically conscious in Africa in this day and age. Look at the number of activists we are having for human rights. In an era in the 21st century, we should be seeing democracy on its roots. And that's why various youths are standing up. Look at the situation in Zimbabwe. A 37-year rule by Robert Mugabe. Since independence 1980, we had Mugabe in power. But the youth had to stand out and say that that had to come to an end. An era whereby economic decline was reported annually, year after year. The poorest economy had to rise again because the youth had to take to the streets and say that this must come to an end. All is all. They are very politically conscious. Now, youths are very important when it comes to security of the African continent. How do you say they are a threat? Look at the number of peacekeeping missions that we've taken to Somalia. Look at the number of the youths who have joined the army. In your village, for instance, my sister here was not mentioned her name, would tell you that up to 6 out of 10 of the youth from the village have joined the army to combat the crime groups that we have. These crime groups are owned by old men. They're cartels who have been in power for years and years, who are using the youth. So the youth now have become morally upright, and they're coming up to join security forces in their country. We're seeing a situation whereby youth can be dependent on when you're talking about security of African countries. And lastly, we are talking about public expenditure, public finance. They are contributing to the 24-hour economies. They've built railways, they've built various towns, and they also trade in that kind of an environment. Thank you very much, and please don't agree to this illusion that is being created here. We are youths. We should not fear one another because we're calling ourselves threats, but instead we should take advantage of what is in us. And I would remind our second proposer to say her name.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes to cross-examine.
The opposers have said that by 2050, the population will have increased. The land is not elastic. Where will we settle these people? We already have people who are landless. So where will these people stay? This will force the government to change the plantation farms, of which generate revenue for the government, foreign exchange, into settlement areas. And how is this helping our economy? These youths and their increase are dragging us down because we will invest in them. We will invest in their education. And what do they do to us? They give us brain drain. We'll invest in someone. And then instead of working here in the country, you will move on to another country because you think there's better pay. Okay. I'm Candy Precious, St. Mary's Girls High School, here to strongly propose the motion that states the African youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. So the opposers have said that the youth are growing morally upright. Do you remember of the hashtag Ifike Wazazi? How is that in any way morally upright? We've heard of Project X. And can even one of you name at least one adult who engaged in these outrageous activities? There have been cases of cyberbullying where people degrade others so much to the extent of committing suicide. Suicide. This is disrespect of human life. How can we let this go on? Population increase causes destabilization of the country's economy. A research carried out by Population Action International showed that the more the population increases, the more destabilized its economy becomes. This is because the limit that the country can sustain has been surpassed. The money that should have gone to development of infrastructure, our roads, railways, hospitals, is going towards helping these youths. People are struggling for meager utilities and social amenities. How many times have you walked into a public hospital ward and seen people sharing beds because there are not enough beds in the hospital, because the government cannot provide? People struggling for meager water emanating from water tables. And why is this? There are too many that the government can't even provide basic social amenities to us. And this is saddening. How can we let our country go into the bottomless pit of debts and grants? We have to look and realize where the rain started beating us at. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your examination.
First and foremost, the proposers have said that there was recently the hashtag Naifiki Wazazi. But did you put into consideration the fact that the parents of those children are the one who have led to that? Most parents in urban centers give their children who are at a tender age, you can find a child with a laptop or a phone. That exposes the child to immoral values and all that. Then you say that in hospitals you'll find a situation whereby a bed is being shared by two, but youths are not prone to diseases as old people. African growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. My name is Anthony Karaoke from Chogoria Boys. Join me in opposing the motion. Proper utilization of media and the internet. The youth have utilized the media and the internet to come up with inventions and innovations that are benefit themselves and others. Put into consideration the Facebook or the Twitter, that smartphone that you have right there. Can you just consider it without having that software in it? Facebook and Instagram, those are one of the most common means of communication, social media. Okay, another youth recently invented a technology that enabled him or her to put the lights on and off by just a say of words, light on and lights off. There is no way that one can say that is a disadvantage. Then there is utilization of resources. There are very many resources that lie unutilized since the number of youths in the continent is very less. But now that the number of youths has increased, there is better utilization of resources. As you all know, in Business Studies Book 1, an entrepreneur is a person who spots a business opportunity and acquires the necessary materials to start and run the business. That is done by the youth in a larger amount. Then, the use of promoted development of industries. Hence putting into practice the SDG number 9 of industry and innovation. The industries brought up by the youth are food and non-food industries. These industries, they offer jobs directly or indirectly to others. The industries provide food to others, hence eradicating hunger. That's zero hunger, SDG number 2. Then there is urbanization. That's the growth of town. Growth of town is also brought about by the youth. You'll find that the towns or the urban centers have structures, bridges, roads, and all other constructions. Those constructions are done or carried out by the youth. And there's no way you'll tell me that a construction is a threat to a continent or causes any disadvantage to the continent. Moreover, there is technology advancement. Technology, what we know most for research, let's say the Google, for instance. Could you just take, for instance, what you're doing right now, a debate, if there was no other means of research? That's the internet or any other method that is used for research. The youth who sat and came up with that method. Then there's also these Wi-Fi that everyone uses, that there's no way that was a threat to the continent. And then there's use for communication, such as the social media, what I had said earlier on. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked, what do they make of the innovations that are created by the youth, considering that M-Pesa is one of the inventions that came from our youth? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked how much of the infrastructure that they're attributing to the youth is actually directly attributable to the numbers of the young people in our country. Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
Christine Yakio from St. Mary's Girls High School. To answer your question, we are not saying that all inventions are bad, but do you want to tell us that all inventions are negative? Do you want to tell us that there are no negative inventions? Recently, we had the youth. They came up with the intelligent system. What was their aim? Their aim was to rob a bank, to rob the KCB bank. That is a negative invention. That is a negative influence into what they were putting. Now come on guys, wake up. That's how it's going. The economy is rising. The living standards of people is going down. No, wait a minute. It's already down. There are high rates of dependency. Most youths depend on their families in order for them to be sustained financially. They live in little investment, live in little resources that cannot be put in any type of any investment. Where are we living the government? The government has resources allocated to other development sectors in the country or even the continent itself. But the increasing youth is actually a threat. When we see the government allocating its resources to the youth, where are the resources that will remain in order to sustain the development of a country? This will result in underdevelopment and the accumulation of debt that keep on increasing and increasing and increasing. In Africa, there are many developing countries through which are struggling. They are striving in order to get into a state through which they can be called a developed country. Let's look like a country in Germany. In Germany, there is no bulge in the young population as compared to the elderly population, whereby there is a big bulginess. The government is able to maintain them. And that's why in Germany we hear cases of high industrialization, whereby there is no, and there is zero unemployment in Germany as compared to African countries, whereby there are increasing cases of unemployment just because the youth is increasing day by day, year by year as we speak. Resources are scarce. And with the increasing cases of corruption in Kenya specifically, there can be always an equal distribution of resources. So come on. Now guys, tick, tock, tick, tock. Time is running out. The increasing youth is increasing day by day, year by year. Come on guys, join me into supporting that Africa's youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent.
Proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Before I respond to the questions, I'd like to say that my sister here, Christine, you'll forgive me, you are a threat to the motion because you have gone out of the context. You are talking about Germany, it's not in Africa. Okay, the question the audience has raised about the infrastructure, I would like to say that the youth are the people who are contributing a large amount to the infrastructure we have in the world, in Africa right now, sorry. For example, the railway station, the railway line, that's the standard gauge railway line that Kenya has been building for the past few months. Most of the people who are there, they're the youths. They're the people who are transporting those building materials. They're the engineers there. So they are contributing a lot to the infrastructure. I would also like to say that the youth are involved in the product promotion. For example, the Blaze here, Safaricom Toweza, those advertisements, Telcom, they're the youth who are there. They're the people who are making us to know about these products. Thus encouraging the Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which says responsible consumption and production. They are the youth, they're also engaged in hospitality sector. For example, in the hotels, in the tourism industry, they're the people who are the tour guides, they're the people who are taking care of those people who are living in hotels, the tourists. They are promoting the Sustainable Development Goal of sustainable cities and communities. In another thing, Chinua Achebe, a renowned writer in Africa, in his book, A Man of the People, he highlights a story of how an African retired district interpreter was asked by his employer how many children he had. And the person could not answer, not because he does not know how many children he had, but because in Africa, we believe that counting children might bring bad luck. So it's not a problem, actually. The more the population, the more the reproduction. Actually, the youth are the people who are engaging in reproduction. They are the reproductive age. They're the people who are giving rise to new species. They're the people who are engaging in horizontal gymnastics to bring about perpetuation of genetic characteristics. They are giving rise to new people. So the more we have, the more we have population, the more we'll be having people who will, the products that we're producing. The more the population, the more the people who are consuming those products, the more the labor, the more the people who are getting employment for others, they're engaging in technology and inventions. So I strongly oppose the motion that Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute for your final statement.
It doesn't hurt to borrow a leaf. We are not saying we are Germany. We are saying we are developing and we want to be developed like Germany. Sustainability is the main thing here. We are not saying that by narrowing the youth population, we will go down in giving birth. No, we'll bring up a youth number that we can sustain. Why should we overborrow? Why should we have debts? Why should we be underdeveloped? Because our money is going to cater for a surplus. Thank God we are living in the 21st century and we do have family planning. Why should we wait for the effects to come so that we act? Why not act now that, goodness, there are family planning methods and reduce the rate? Let's see how that works for us. China has been there. They have been grappling with the same issue. And now their productivity is even higher when the population is lower. They realized that the population of the workforce was so high and now they're doing great because they reduced it. Let's stop being ignorant. It's the greatest problem we have in Africa. Let's sit down and realize that this growing youth bulge is a problem and it will kill us if we don't act. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for your final statement.
Thank you. The high population of the youth is not the threat. The threat is the continent to the youth. If we struggle to say that the youth population is the threat, it's just like a bird which is being chased by a snake. It's on the ground and it flies to an anthill. It has not done anything. So youth should get access to more resources to make Africa a better continent. And the proposers, you're not offering us a solution. Thank you.
Our first speaker, that was very good. You're such a confident, eloquent, and involving speaker. And there's a lot ahead of you. So keep up the good work. Your beginning was quite good. You're well versed with emotion and its demands. You engaged the audience, which was very good. Precious, our second speaker, cross-examining was very well done. You also came out with very good points on the shrinking resources against a bulging youth population. However, I wished that you would have given, for instance, statistics, because they are very, there are quite a number of them, you know, in each of the sectors, maybe the health sector, maybe the education sector. You should have given us a little bit of statistics as they are, because we have different bodies that have given us information you can rely on. Christine, confident, eloquent, a good speaker you are. You also elaborated and you carried on whatever has been handed over to you by the other two speakers. You're also a good speaker, good team.
The Chogoria School, that was quite a good job. Having been your first time, your debut here, I think you did quite a good job. You're well prepared. Caleb, maybe when you talked about the youth dealing with the SGR, maybe you could have mentioned, I think it was in the news or in the newspapers, there was a lady who was poached from the Nairobi University, went to China to study, think engineering in railway engineering. You could have mentioned that. That is a very good example. You could have used that. Bernard and Anthony, you did quite justice to the motion. You are very good and strong debaters. All the best, both teams.
The judges saw it fit to award Chogoria Boys High School 68%. Let's give them a round of applause. St. Mary's. The judges awarded you 72%, making you the winners of this debate. Congratulations to both teams for a job well done. Remember, losing the battle just helps you find another way of winning the war.
We would like to appreciate the patrons and the principals for availing the students and the students themselves for giving us good debates. We'd also like to appreciate our sponsors, Blaze by Safaricom and Brand Kenya Board, for facilitating this. We'd like to ask the viewers, remember to keep the conversation going on all our social media platforms. The hashtag is GDC for SDGs. I have been your host, Esperanza Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Until next time, see you same place, same time.